Good Thursday morning, Patriots, and welcome to O'Connor's Right Stand, where we don't swallow the swamp's Kool-Aid, we torch it and call it what it is, pure poison. I'm John O'Connor, your host, a software programmer by day, and a conservative truth warrior by night. New listeners, lock and load, because we're diving headfirst into the deep end of a political cesspool. Regulars, you know the deal. Hit me up at O'Connor Stand on X with your rants, cheers, or roasts. We are jumping right into it. Today, we're ripping into the festering wound of illegal immigration. A crisis the left calls humanity while it drains your wallet, trashes your town, and spits on the rule of law. The net annual cost clocks in at over $150 billion. That's your mortgage, your kid's college fund, your grocery bills for a year, spread across 158 million taxpayers. That's $956 a head. Every year and growing, to bankroll a borderless disaster the Biden-Harris clown show pretended wasn't a problem. Since Trump took office in January, the tide's turning fast. Daily border encounters crashed 95%, from roughly 20,000 under Biden's last week to only 1,000 in Trump's first. Gotaways, those sneaking past the Border Patrol, dropped 93%. From roughly 1,800 just down to 132 daily. Trump's reinstated Remain in Mexico killed Biden's CBP-1 app that let 30,000 Cubans and Venezuelans waltz in monthly, and unleashed ICE to nab 66,463 illegals in his first 100 days, 75% with criminal records. But don't break out the confetti. The swamp's fighting tooth and nail to keep the border porous, and Biden's open border scars still bleed. This isn't about hating immigrants. It's about hating a system that screws Americans while the left smirks and calls it diversity. From schools bursting at the seams to hospitals turning into free clinics, from crime spikes to rigged elections, this crisis is hammering every corner of America. Grab your coffee, pour a double bourbon, or clutch your pitchfork. We're exposing the lies, naming the culprits, and demanding accountability for a country fed up with being played. Ready to hold the line, unapologetically? The Right Stand starts now. Let's talk about your hard-earned cash. Stolen by a system that puts lawbreakers ahead of you and your family. Illegal immigration costs taxpayers $150 billion a year, after the measly 17% of taxes paid by undocumented immigrants. And to be honest, I am not sure I buy that number. That's $956 per taxpayer and rising. That's your car payment, your kids' braces, your retirement savings, siphoned off to fund a borderless free-for-all. Under Biden, this was a full-on looting spree, but now, under Trump, the brakes are on. Daily border encounters slashed from 20,000 to 1,000, with 139,000 deportations by April, including 600 members of the vicious Tren de Agua gang. But Biden's mess lingers, and the left's still pushing to keep the spigot open. Let's dive into where your money's bleeding out. First off, education. A 1982 Supreme Court ruling forces schools to educate every kid, legal or not, costing $70 billion annually. In Texas, border districts saw enrollment spikes of 25%, packing classrooms with 35 kids, half needing ESL programs that cost $10,000 extra per student. Schools hired translators and counselors while slashing music, sports, and science labs. California funneled billions into migrant-related education costs, draining funds from teacher salaries and school repairs. Arizona districts resorted to trailers as temporary classrooms while property taxes jumped to cover unbudgeted costs. Trump's policies, slashing encounters 35% in his first 3 days, have slowed the surge, but schools are still drowning. Parents are furious as their kids lose opportunities to accommodate migrants' demands. Small-town schools like those in rural Georgia report similar strains, with class sizes up 15% and budgets stretched to breaking. The left calls this inclusion. I call it a heist, stealing your tax dollars, and your child's education to subsidize lawbreakers. Second, let's talk about healthcare. Federal law mandates ER treatment for all, racking up $20 billion a year in uncompensated care. California hospitals lost billions, with one San Antonio facility reporting a $50 million in annual losses from uninsured non-citizens. Under Biden, parole programs flooded cities with 30,000 Cubans and Venezuelans monthly, overwhelming the ERs. Trump ended those programs, and his 139,000 deportations have eased some of the pressure. But the damage persists. Medicaid costs for U.S.-born kids of illegals soared, squeezing out low-income citizens. In Florida, private insurance premiums spiked to cover hospital losses. Rural clinics are shutting down. New Mexico lost 3 in a single year, while your premiums are skyrocket and wait times stretch into hours. In Ohio, hospitals reported a 10% increase in ER overcrowding, turning away locals for lack of beds. The left says healthcare is a right. Then why is it always your wallet footing the bill while hospitals turn into ghost towns? Third, law enforcement. Incarcerating non-citizens costs $1 billion federally, with states like Texas adding billions more for policing, courts, and jails. Under Biden, 700,000 gotaways fueled crime, including fentanyl trafficking that killed 70,000 Americans. Trump's ICE arrested 66,463 illegals by April, including 2,288 gang members, and Trump was finally able to slap these gangs with the title of terrorists. But sanctuary states like California cost taxpayers billions to jail non-citizens for crimes from DUIs to trafficking. Sheriffs report jails overflowing, with budgets stretched thin to cover overtime and equipment. In Colorado, local police spent millions on border-related crime, diverting funds from community safety programs. The left calls this justice. I simply call it betrayal, endangering your family while your taxes pay for this chaos. 4. Border security. Under Biden, CBP, ICE, and immigration courts burned $60 billion a year. Yet the border was a turnstile. 2.5 million encounters in a single year. Trump slashed daily encounters to 1,041, ended catch and release, and deported 139,000 illegals. He's killed the CBP One app and reinstated Remain in Mexico, stranding 30,000 migrants. But 2 million asylum cases clogged the courts, letting cartels exploit the backlog. Rural border counties, like those in New Mexico, report millions in extra costs for emergency services, draining local budgets. The left whines about cruelty, but your taxes fund the circus while drugs and danger flood our streets. 5. Social services. Illegal immigrants can't get federal welfare, but their U.S.-born kids can. SNAP, Medicaid, housing vouchers, child tax credits. California spent billions, while New York shelled out $1 billion for migrant shelters, renting hotels at $300 a night, while homeless veterans slept on the sidewalks. Trump redirected millions to border enforcement, but states still bleed cash. Chicago's public housing wait list grew, leaving locals out in the cold. In Oregon, social service programs lost funding to cover migrant-related costs, shortchanging citizens. The left's compassion is a one-way ticket to your bankruptcy, prioritizing lawbreakers over taxpayers. And 6. Economic ripple effects. Beyond direct costs, illegal immigration hammers American workers. Undocumented labor depresses wages, especially in low-skilled jobs like construction and agriculture. In Texas, construction wages stagnated as illegal workers undercut citizens by 20%. Small businesses in border towns like those in Arizona report losing contracts to firms hiring cheap, illegal labor. Trump's E-Verify push is starting to curb this, but Biden's open borders left millions competing with Americans for jobs. The left claims migrants do jobs Americans won't. Tell that to the unemployed carpenter in Dallas or the farm worker in Fresno. Your taxes fund this mess, and your paycheck takes the hit. Now, let's bring this home. Your classrooms, your clinics, and your streets, where this $150 billion disaster leaves real scars. Trump's policies, ending CBP One, reinstating Remain in Mexico, and arresting 66,463 illegals, are turning the tide. But Biden's open border nightmare lingers like a bad stain. From border towns to big cities to rural hamlets, the fallout's crushing communities. Let's zoom in on the wreckage. So, after researching some of these effects, I wanted to look at some cities, specifically 5, that are impacted by illegal immigration. First up, we have Yuma, Arizona. In Yuma, a border town of 95,000, schools faced a 20% enrollment spike under Biden. Classrooms swelled to 35 kids, with 40% needing ESL programs, costing $8,000 extra per student. The local district cut the science labs, music classes, and football to fund translators and counselors, while property tax spiked 10% to cover the $15 million in unbudgeted costs. Trump's 95% drop in encounters has eased new enrollments, but Yuma is still using trailers as classrooms, and parents are livid. Their kids lose opportunities while the system prioritizes migrants. Small businesses like local diners struggle as families move away, unable to afford the rising taxes. The left calls this diversity. Yuma calls it a sacrifice to their children's future. Next, Chicago, Illinois. Chicago, far from the border, spent $500 million on migrant shelters, renting hotels at $300 a night, while locals faced $2,500 a month rents. Under Biden, 50,000 migrants arrived, spiking rents 15% and lengthening public housing wait lists. Trump redirected shelter funds to ICE, saving millions, but Chicagoans still can't afford homes. Thousands of families were priced out as migrants competed for scarce rentals. Local shelters turned away homeless citizens to house migrants, sparking protests. The left's inclusion means Chicago's working class is excluded from their own city, watching lawbreakers get handouts while they scrape by. Miami, Florida. Miami's hospitals took a $200 million hit from uncompensated care, with 1 in 5 ER visits by uninsured non-citizens. Biden's parole programs flooded the city with 15,000 Haitians and Venezuelans monthly. Trump ended them, but ER still faced 10% longer wait times. Medicaid costs for U.S.-born kids of illegals rose, draining funds from low-income citizens. Locals wait hours for care, and private insurance premiums spike to cover the losses. Rural hospitals are closing, leaving communities without care. In nearby Homestead, a clinic shut down, forcing residents to drive 50 miles for treatment. The left says healthcare for all. Miami says it's healthcare for none when citizens are pushed to the back of the line. Next up, El Paso, Texas. El Paso, a border hotspot, saw jails filled with non-citizens, costing $100 million annually. Trump's ICE nabbed 2,288 gang members, but sanctuary policies in nearby states released 1,000 convicted non-citizens. Police report a surge in trafficking-related arrests, stretching budgets thin with overtime and equipment costs. Local businesses, like gas stations near the border, face rising theft and vandalism. The left calls this justice. El Paso calls it a safety crisis, with citizens paying for the fallout while cartels run rampant. And finally, Springfield, Ohio. In Springfield, a quiet town of 60,000, 10,000 migrants arrived under Biden, overwhelming the schools with 15% enrollment spike. Classrooms added ESL teachers, cutting art and gym programs. The local hospital saw a 12% rise in ER visits, costing $10 million in uncompensated care. Rents jumped 10%, pricing out locals. Trump's deportations are helping, but small towns lack the budgets to absorb these shocks. Community centers cut youth programs, and locals feel their towns slipping away. In nearby Dayton, similar surges strain food banks, leaving citizens hungry. The left's compassion is tearing small-town America apart. Across these communities, trust is collapsing. Polls show most Americans feel immigration policies favor non-citizens over citizens. In Yuma, parents protest school cuts. In Chicago, locals rally against migrant shelters. In Miami, patients demand shorter ER wait times. In Springfield, residents fight for their own town's identity. Trump's 139,000 deportations and 95% drop in encounters are rebuilding faith. But Biden's policies sow division that won't fade fast. When your kid's school slashes programs, your hospital turns you away, and your streets feel less safe, you don't need a lecture. You need a government that puts you first. The left's open border fetish isn't about heartfelt compassion. It's about raw, unfiltered power. The census, congressional seats, and electoral votes are tied to population, not citizens, which is handing blue states an edge. Trump's fighting back, but the system is still wired to screw you. It's like the derm appendix scam from the last episode, where the word ridiculous dodged accountability. Here, it's inclusion, masking a political theft. Let's expose how the crisis rigs the game against you. The Constitution counts everyone, including illegals, for the census. Blue states like California, New York, and Illinois gain 7 to 15 extra House seats and electoral votes because of it. California's 4 million undocumented immigrants added 4 to 5 electoral votes under Biden, enough to swing a close election. Red states like Ohio, Montana, or West Virginia lose influence. Their voters' voices are drowned out by blue state population padding. Trump's 139,000 deportations and 95% encounter drop are reducing the influx, but the 2020 census locked in this imbalance until 2030. Republicans push for a citizenship question to count only legal residents. Democrats block it, crying discrimination to protect their power. In swing states like Nevada, migrant-driven growth added a House seat, diluting rural voters' clout. This isn't fairness. It's a deliberate strategy to dilute your vote, ensuring blue strongholds dominate Congress and the Electoral College. Population drives federal cash for roads, schools, Medicaid, and more. California raked in billions extra due to non-citizens, while red states like Wyoming or Missouri get shortchanged. New York funneled billions into federal funds to migrant-heavy districts, leaving rural areas starved. Trump ended Biden's parole programs, cutting 30,000 monthly entries, but blue states still cash in on your dime. Texas lost highway funds due to population imbalances, while sanctuary cities pocketed millions for community programs. In Georgia, rural counties saw school funding cut as urban areas with high migrant populations got federal grants. The left calls this equity. I call it stealing from red state taxpayers to prop up blue state power grabs. Sanctuary policies shield criminals. Thousands of convicted non-citizens were released, including violent offenders. Trump's ICE nabbed 308 criminals on day one, but Democrat mayors resist, prioritizing sanctuary status over safety. San Francisco allocated millions to protect non-citizens, drawing federal funds while red counties struggled with crime. Chicago's sanctuary policies cost taxpayers millions to house the migrants, while locals faced rising rents and crime. In Seattle, sanctuary laws tied police's hands, letting repeat offenders walk free. The left's sanctuary is a power grab, inflating blue city populations to secure more seats and cash at your expense. Most Americans believe immigration policies favor non-citizens over citizens. Trump's aggressive policies are rebuilding trust, with fewer Americans demanding immigration cuts compared to Biden's era. But the resentment lingers. When your vote's diluted, your taxes fund blue state schemes, and your town's resources vanish, cynicism takes root. The left's inclusion rhetoric, like the Durham ridiculous dodge, is gaslighting to cover their power play. Your vote, your voice, your country, they're all at stake. This crisis isn't fate. It's a choice by elites who pander to globalists over citizens. Trump's delivering, but sanctuary cities and 2 million backlogged asylum cases keep the system broken. Here's how we fix it, with no room for the left's sob stories. Finish the border wall. Completed sections cut crossings by 70%. Hire 10,000 more CBP and ICE agents. Deploy AI-driven drones and expand detention centers for 50,000 more illegals. Trump's ended catch and release, deporting nearly all encounters compared to Biden's 2.5 million releases. His Remain in Mexico policy slashed asylum claims by 60%. Expand it to every country. Equip border agents with cutting-edge tech, like thermal imaging and facial recognition, to stop cartels cold. Critics whine about costs, but $60 billion a year for a porous border is the real crime. Build the wall, lock the gates, and end the invasion. Mandate E-Verify nationwide for every employer, no exceptions. It slashed illegal employment in enforcing states, cutting the incentive to cross. With millions of Americans unemployed, businesses can hire citizens first. Construction workers in Texas, farmhands in California, service workers in Florida. E-Verify protects wages, boosting local economies. The left calls it anti-immigrant. It's pro-American worker, putting your paycheck first. Scrap the broken immigration system for a merit-based overhaul. Guest worker programs tied to market needs, strict quotas, no chain migration. Legal status requires background checks, back taxes, and English proficiency. Most Americans oppose amnesty, and for good reason. It rewards lawbreaking and invites more chaos. Streamline legal immigration to attract skilled workers like engineers and doctors who boost America's economy, not drain it. The left says it's cruel. I say, fair. America's not the world's charity. The feds must reimburse states for migrant costs. California's billions in Medicaid belong in D.C.'s lap. Tie federal funding to citizen counts, not illegals, to stop blue states from gaming the census. Trump redirected millions from migrant shelters to ICE, saving hundreds of millions. Cap state spending on non-citizen services, forcing D.C. to foot the bill. The left calls this unfair. I call it putting taxpayers first. Expand Remain in Mexico to all countries. It cut asylum claims by 60%. Tie foreign aid to Mexico and Central America to cartel crackdowns. Hundreds of millions flow yearly, yet cartels thrive. Fund anti-corruption programs in Honduras and Guatemala to curb migration drivers like violence and poverty. The left's heartless excuse doesn't stop fentanyl deaths from tearing families apart. This ends when you get loud, real loud. Flood your congressman's inbox, blow up their phone lines, demand that every penny spent on this mess is accounted for, down to the last dime funneled to Chicago's $500 million migrant hotels. Vote out the spineless rhinos and the Dems who caved to the left's open border sob stories, keeping your rent sky high and your schools packed. Trump has empowered local cops with 456 287G agreements, turning sheriffs into ICE's right hand to nab criminals. I've been in some lovely debates on X around this, but so you are aware, Section 287G is a provision of the U.S. Immigration and Nationality Act, added in 1996 by the Illegal Immigration Reform and Immigrant Responsibility Act. In short, it allows DHS to partner with local and state enforcement agencies, allowing trained agents to perform immigration enforcement tasks. Most liberals on X don't seem to have a clue about that, so use it to your advantage. The swamp's digging in, and they're betting you're going to stay quiet. Prove them wrong. Rally your neighbors, show up at the town halls, and make your mayor explain why your taxes fund sanctuary city nonsense while your streets get less safe. Check primary sources yourself. CBP stats, ICE reports. Not the left's media spin. You're not just a voter. You're the boss of this country. The swamp only moves when you light a fire under their sorry hides. So grab the matches and burn it down. Demand America first. No apologies and no retreat. Well, that's episode 10, Patriots. Armed with the truth, go roast the left's $150 billion border scam on X. They'll dodge facts faster than a snake slithering back to their mom's basement, whining compassion while your wallet bleeds. And feel free to download the transcript to use as your ammo. We've exposed the $150 billion scam, the community wreckage, the political theft, and the path to fight back. Trump slashed crossings 95%, deported 139,000, and killed Biden's parole programs. But the swamp's not giving up. This crisis isn't just about dollars. It's about your future, your voice, and your country. The left wants you to be silent, but patriots, don't shut up. Share this episode, hit me up on X at O'Connor Stand, and demand leaders who put America first. Until Tuesday, I'm John O'Connor. Stay skeptical, stay loud, and never let the swamp win. Signing off.